I used to believe that love could erase the past, but on the night I found the envelope tucked inside my husband's old desk drawer, yellowed, sealed, and marked confidential, private adoption records, I realized that some pasts don't fade. They wait, patiently. That night, rain tapped against the kitchen window, soft and rhythmic, while the scent of chamomile tea filled the air. I remember how the lamplight caught on the gold band around my finger, the same ring I had worn for 15 years, and how suddenly it felt heavier. I shouldn't have been snooping, but something had felt off for months. The strange calls Mark wouldn't take around me. The long looks he gave our daughter, Leah, when he thought I wasn't watching. It wasn't suspicion that drove me to open that drawer. It was instinct, the same quiet instinct that once told me I was meant to be her mother. When I tore the envelope open, my hands were trembling so hard the papers almost slipped, and then I saw it a name I didn't recognize. Biological mother, Catherine Lewis. Not mine. Not ours. And beneath that, a second line birth family connection. See attached records, child of Mark and deceased first spouse, Hannah Lewis. I remember whispering the words out loud, my voice barely audible. Deceased first spouse, Hannah Lewis. That's when everything inside me shifted. Before that moment, life had been simple. Or at least, I thought it was. We lived in a modest white house on Maplewood Drive, with lilac bushes by the porch and a wind chime that played the softest melody when the evening breeze passed through. Our mornings were filled with Leah's giggles echoing down the hall, the smell of buttered toast, and the sound of Mark humming while making coffee. To anyone looking in, we were the picture of stability, the couple who had survived heartbreak and built something beautiful from it. I met Mark 12 years ago, when I was volunteering at a community center. He'd lost his wife, Hannah, in a tragic accident a year before. I remember the first time he told me about her, how his voice softened when he said her name, how grief hung in the air like a second shadow. He said he didn't think he could love again, and I, naively, believed that love could heal him. When we got married, we spoke often about adoption. I couldn't have children naturally, a truth I'd made peace with long ago. Mark wanted to start fresh, to give love another chance. We'll build something together, he told me. A family of our own. Leah came into our lives like sunlight, through fog, tiny, bright-eyed, her cries full of life. I remember the first time I held her, how Mark wept silently beside me, his hand over mine, whispering, "She's ours now." For years, I believed that. Every birthday, every scraped knee, every bedtime story, they stitched our lives tighter. She was our daughter, the child that made us whole, until the papers told me otherwise. The rain outside grew heavier that night, matching the storm brewing inside me. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the kitchen clock, every sound suddenly louder, sharper, as if the world wanted me to feel the weight of silence. Mark walked in from the living room, his hair tousled, his face weary from a long day. "You're still up?" he asked, voice casual, unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. I held up the papers with trembling hands. "What is this?" He froze. His eyes darted from my face to the documents, and in that instant, I knew. He didn't even ask what I meant. He just knew. His shoulders slumped, and for the first time, I saw a flash of something raw in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or fear. "Where did you find that?" he asked quietly. "In your desk," I whispered. "In the drawer you said was for old bills." "Mark, what does this mean?" He sat down, rubbing his temples. "It's complicated, Claire." "Then simplify it," I snapped, the words breaking before I could stop them. He took a deep breath. "Leah, she's mine." The world tilted. My stomach dropped so fast, I thought I'd be sick. "What do you mean she's yours?" "She's Hannah's child," he said slowly, as if saying it too fast would shatter something fragile. "She was born right before the accident. I thought she'd died with her. But Hannah's sister Catherine, He hesitated, searching for words, but my mind was already spiraling. "You told me she was adopted from an agency," I whispered. "She was," he said quickly, "but I arranged it privately. Catherine couldn't take care of her. She wanted me to have her, to raise her. And I didn't tell you because you thought I wouldn't love her if I knew." Silence. The rain outside turned into a steady roar. I felt like I was falling not through space, but through time. Every memory with Leah, twisting, warping, becoming something I didn't recognize. She wasn't the child we adopted. She was the child he hid. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of Leah's bed, watching her tiny chest rise and fall, her curls spilling across the pillow. She looked so peaceful, so mine. But under the soft glow of her nightlight, I couldn't stop seeing the truth, the lie that had built our family. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to scream. But all I could think about was her, the little girl who called me mommy, the one I'd sworn to protect, no matter what. And in that quiet, tear-streaked hour, one thought echoed in my mind. If I wasn't her real mother by blood, then what was I now? I woke up the next morning to the faint smell of pancakes and the sound of Leah singing off-key from the kitchen. Her voice, light, pure, and unbothered, was the kind of sound that used to fill me with warmth. But that morning, it felt distant. I walked in and found her perched on a stool, swinging her legs, her curls tangled from sleep. Mark stood by the stove, spatula in hand, acting like nothing had happened, like the world hadn't split open between us the night before. "Good morning," he said softly, eyes barely meeting mine. I forced a smile for Leah's sake. "Morning, Mommy. Can I have extra syrup?" she asked, holding up her fork like a little princess demanding her wish. I nodded, brushing her hair back. "Of course, sweetheart." She smiled, oblivious, and I envied her for that. When she ran off to get dressed for school, I turned to Mark. My voice came out cold, clipped. "We need to talk. Now." He nodded. He didn't even try to protest. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd celebrated birthdays, planned vacations, dreamed of a future. Now, it felt like a witness to a crime. Neither of us wanted to confess. "Start from the beginning," I said. He exhaled, staring down at his hands. "After Hannah died, I thought Leah was gone too. They told me the baby didn't survive the accident. I lost everything that day." His voice cracked, low and broken. Then, 2 months later, Catherine came to me. She said the baby had been alive all along, that Hannah's parents made her hide it. They didn't want their granddaughter raised by me. Said I was to blame for the crash. I felt my chest tighten. "So, Catherine gave her to you?" He nodded slowly. She wanted to do the right thing, but she was scared. She didn't want the family to know. So she arranged the adoption quietly through a lawyer she trusted. I signed the papers under her name. I thought it was cleaner that way. I didn't want you dragged into the mess. I stared at him, disbelief hardening into anger. "You didn't want me dragged into the mess?" "Mark, I married you. I built a life with you. You let me think that our daughter came from a stranger, not from your dead wife." His voice broke. "I was protecting you." "From what? The truth?" He looked up then, eyes glassy. "From their judgment. From Hannah's parents. They still hate me, Claire. They blame me for her death. If they knew Leah was with us, they'd try to take her. They'd destroy you to get her back." The words hit like cold water. "Take her?" I whispered. He nodded. "They tried once, years ago. I never told you because I couldn't lose her again." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The clock ticked on the wall. The faucet dripped, and my heart thudded in my chest, each sound sharp as glass. Then, from the hallway, Leah's voice broke the silence. "Mommy, Daddy, are we late?" I turned toward her, her small face beaming with innocence, and everything inside me softened again. Whatever secrets Mark had buried, whatever lies he told, she was still mine. She had to be. But something deep inside me had shifted a seed of doubt that wouldn't stop growing. That evening, after Leah was asleep, I sat in my office staring at the old adoption file. The name Catherine Lewis stared back at me, like an unfinished sentence. Something about it didn't sit right. I opened my laptop and typed the name into a search bar. At first, nothing. Then a local article from nearly 12 years ago appeared. "Lewis family tragedy. Daughter-in-law Hannah Lewis. And newborn presumed dead after car crash on County Road 8. Sister Catherine declines to comment." My eyes caught the date. Just 2 months before Leah's adoption papers were filed. The story didn't match what Mark said. The timeline was off. I kept digging, scrolling through old records, until I found something that made my breath hitch. A death notice for Catherine Lewis, dated 1 year after Leah's adoption. My stomach dropped. She was dead. So who handled the adoption after that? Who filed the papers? That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the house, every rustle of wind outside, felt like a whisper from the past. 2 days later, I decided to visit the lawyer's office, listed in the file. A small, faded building on the edge of town. The receptionist looked puzzled when I gave the name. "Mr. Holloway retired years ago," she said. "His daughter handles old records now. I can call her if you'd like." Minutes later, a woman in her late 40s appeared, wearing a tailored gray suit and kind eyes that hid something sharp. "You're here about an adoption file?" she asked, motioning me into her office. "Yes," I said quietly. "It's about my daughter, Leah Carter. The adoption was filed through your father's firm 12 years ago." She nodded, flipping through a cabinet until she found a worn folder. "Ah, this one." She looked up, her tone softening. "I remember my father talking about this case. Said it was unusual." "Unusual how?" She hesitated. There was confusion about the birth certificate. 2 infants were registered under similar names, one belonging to the Lewis family, one to a different couple. My father said something about a swap, but he couldn't prove it. I felt the air leave my lungs. "A swap?" She nodded slowly. "It was messy. There were whispers that one child might have been given to the wrong family, but the file was sealed by court order shortly after. My father said someone with influence wanted it buried." My voice trembled. "Who?" She closed the folder, her eyes meeting mine. "The Lewis family." I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Every piece of my life, my marriage, my motherhood, suddenly felt like someone else's story. Mark had said he was protecting me, but from the way that lawyers spoke, I wasn't sure who had really been protected, or why. When I pulled into the driveway, Leah ran out to greet me, waving the drawing she'd made in art class. "Look, Mommy, it's us!" I looked down at the picture, 3 stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. She'd written our names in careful, crooked letters. Mommy, Daddy, Leah. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. Because no matter what blood said, no matter what secrets hid in those papers, she was mine. But deep down, I knew I hadn't uncovered everything yet, and the next truth waiting for me might destroy us all. That night, I sat at the edge of our bed, the file clutched to my chest like a confession. I wasn't ready to speak. The silence between Mark and me had grown so thick that even the sound of him breathing next to me felt like a lie. He stirred, eyes half open. "You're still up?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I turned the bedside lamp on, its light washing the room in a harsh yellow. "Mark, we need to talk." He groaned, rubbing his temples. "Can it wait till morning?" "No," I said, my voice shaking. "Because by morning, I might not be able to look at you the same way again." That got his attention. He sat up, eyes narrowing. "What's that supposed to mean?" I reached for the folder, laying it between us like a piece of evidence. I went to the lawyer's office. "I know about the Lewis family, the confusion with the birth records, and Catherine." His expression went still not surprised, just hollow. "Catherine's dead, Mark," I said softly. "She's been dead for over a decade. So who arranged Leah's adoption? Who filed the papers?" He looked away, his throat tightening. "I did." The words hung heavy. "You?" I whispered. "I used her name," he confessed, voice low. "The lawyer thought it was her. I forged the signature to protect Leah, and to protect you." My body went cold. "You forged an adoption? You faked the entire process?" "I didn't fake it," he snapped, then softer. "I just made it official in my own way. The Lewis family wanted Leah gone. They said I didn't deserve to raise her, that I'd failed Hannah, so I made sure they couldn't take her." I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. "You lied to the law. You lied to me. Do you understand what that means? Leah's adoption isn't even legal." He stood then, running both hands through his hair, pacing like a man cornered. "You think I didn't know that? Every day, Claire. Every damn day. I wake up terrified. Someone will knock on that door and take her away." I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make the pain in my chest go somewhere, anywhere, but instead, I just whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" He stopped, looking at me with the kind of guilt that stripped all his defenses away. "Because I knew you'd do the right thing, and the right thing might have meant losing her." The next morning, I dropped Leah off at school, her tiny hand slipping from mine as she ran toward the playground. I stood there longer than usual, watching her laugh with her friends, completely unaware that her whole identity was built on secrets. Back home, I opened the adoption file again, every document now feeling like a map of betrayal. I noticed a small yellow sticky note tucked between the pages, one I hadn't seen before. On it, in faded handwriting, were 3 words. "Ask Ruth Lewis directly." Ruth, Hannah's mother, the woman who supposedly wanted Leah gone. My pulse quickened. I remembered her from Mark's stories, a cold, proper woman from the old part of town, known for her influence and her ability to make things disappear quietly. I didn't tell Mark. I just got in my car and drove. Her house was a grand, aging mansion at the edge of the city, white pillars, tall hedges, and an air of forgotten pride. The maid at the door looked hesitant when I asked to see her. But after a few minutes, Ruth appeared in the doorway herself. Even in her 70s, she carried herself like royalty pearls around her neck, posture straight as a rod. Mrs. Lewis, I began softly. My name is Claire Carter. I think you knew my husband, Mark. I'm here about my daughter, Leah. Her eyes flickered for a moment. I'm too old for surprises, Mrs. Carter. Say what you came to say. I took a deep breath. I know Leah isn't who I thought she was. I know she's related to your family somehow. I just need the truth. Ruth studied me for a long time, her gaze sharp enough to slice through pretense. Then, with a sigh that seemed to carry years of bitterness, she said, "Sit down." I obeyed. She reached for a photograph on a nearby table, a faded picture of a young woman with soft curls and a newborn in her arms. "That's Hannah," she said, "and the baby she gave birth to my first grandchild, the one they told you died." I leaned forward. "Then, Leah is—" She nodded, interrupting me. "Hannah's child. My blood, but not the one buried under her name." My stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" Her voice turned brittle, cracking with the weight of the truth. "The babies were switched. The hospital mixed them up after the crash. I tried to correct it, but by the time we found out, Mark had taken one of them, and Catherine helped him hide it." I froze. "So, Leah isn't even Hannah's?" "No," Ruth whispered. "She's someone else's. Someone who still believes their child died that night." The room began to spin. My hands trembled as the words sank in. "You knew all this time! You let me raise her, you let us live this lie!" Ruth's face softened for the first time. "I let you because you love her. Because you're the only mother she's ever known. The truth destroys, Mrs. Carter. Sometimes love has to be a lie to survive." I stood up, anger and heartbreak swirling inside me like a storm. "Love isn't a lie," I said through tears. "It's the only truth that's left when everything else falls apart." I drove home numb, the world outside blurring into streaks of color and noise. I didn't even notice the rain until I parked in front of our house and saw Mark waiting at the door, face pale, phone in hand. "Where have you been?" he asked, his voice tight with panic. I didn't answer. I just held his gaze and said, "I know the truth, Mark. All of it." His shoulders slumped like a man who'd been waiting years for that sentence. The thunder cracked behind us. Leah's laughter echoed faintly from upstairs. And for the first time since I became a mother, I felt the one thing I had never allowed myself to feel: fear that she might not stay mine. The next morning, the house felt unnaturally quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after an earthquake, when everything looks intact, but nothing is truly standing. Mark was sitting at the dining table, his coffee untouched, eyes fixed on a single sheet of paper. It was Leah's birth certificate, the forged one. The ink looked faded now, like it had finally surrendered to the truth. He looked up as I entered. "You went to see Ruth, didn't you?" I didn't deny it. "She told me everything." He sighed, leaning back. "Then you know what I was trying to protect you from." I pulled out a chair, sitting across from him. "You weren't protecting me, Mark. You were protecting yourself. From guilt, from consequences, from the truth." He winced at my tone, but said nothing. For a moment, we sat in silence, just the soft hum of the refrigerator filling the air. Then I said the words I'd been holding back all night. "Leah's not even Hannah's child, is she?" He looked at me, his eyes glassy. "No." The final thread snapped inside me. "Then whose is she?" He swallowed hard. "I don't know. We never found out." I felt my breath catch. "You never found out? You built an entire life around a child whose real parents might still be out there?" He slammed his hands on the table. "Don't say it like that. She's ours. She's my daughter." Tears welled up in my eyes. "And she's mine too. But love doesn't erase the truth, Mark. It never does." He sank back down, his anger fading into exhaustion. "I couldn't lose her, Claire. Not after Hannah died. Not after everything else I lost. She was the only piece of peace I had left." I wanted to hate him, but looking at him, I only saw a man broken by grief. The kind of grief that makes you cling to lies because they're softer than the truth. "Still," I said quietly, "we have to make it right. For her." That evening, after Leah had gone to bed, I sat in her room for a long time. Her little bookshelf, the stuffed bear she never slept without, the glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling, all pieces of a world built on stolen truth. She looked so peaceful in her sleep, her tiny chest rising and falling in rhythm. And for the first time, I noticed something that had always been there. 2 eyes, when closed, had a faint birthmark just beneath the left one. I remembered Ruth's photo of Hannah's real baby. There had been no mark. The realization felt like a knife to the heart. This child, this beautiful, innocent soul, didn't belong to the name she carried. And yet, as I brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, I whispered, "You're mine, no matter what the papers say." The next morning, a car pulled up outside our house. Black sedan, tinted windows, the kind of car that brings bad news. Mark opened the door, tension stiff in his posture. A tall man in a suit stepped out, holding a folder. "Mr. Carter," he said, his tone sharp but polite. "I'm here on behalf of the Lewis estate. Mrs. Ruth Lewis has passed away." I froze in the doorway. "What?" "She left a sealed letter addressed to both of you." He handed over a cream-colored envelope, embossed with the Lewis family crest. My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside was a single page written in Ruth's elegant, deliberate handwriting. "To Claire and Mark, by the time you read this, I will be gone. I've made arrangements for the truth to be protected, for Leah to remain where she belongs. I've ensured that no court will contest your custody. Consider it my final sin and my final mercy. Love her. Raise her. Let the past rest in peace. Ruth." Mark exhaled shakily. She fixed it." I didn't answer right away. I read the letter again, noticing a faint imprint at the bottom, like someone had pressed another paper against it before. Curious. I held it under the light and saw faint outlines of words written beneath the ink. A second message. "If you truly want peace, look in the drawer beneath the cradle Hannah used to keep." My blood ran cold. That evening, we drove to Hannah's old house, the one Mark still owned but never entered. It was half decayed, filled with dust and silence. The nursery door creaked as I pushed it open. Everything was still there, the faded wallpaper, the rocking chair, the small wooden cradle. Mark hesitated at the door. "I can't." "I'll do it," I said softly. Kneeling down, I opened the bottom drawer of the cradle. Inside was a small metal box, rusted, locked, but the key was taped beneath it. When I opened it, I found an old photograph, a birth bracelet, and a letter. The letter was written in Hannah's handwriting. "If anyone finds this, please protect my baby. Her name is Lily. The hospital made a mistake. I'm too weak to fight them, but I know the truth. My child has a mark under her left eye. Don't let them take her." I gasped, hand flying to my mouth. Mark sank to his knees beside me, whispering, "Oh my God. Leah wasn't someone else's child. She was Hannah's all along." The switch, the confusion, the lies, everything had twisted so far that the truth had hidden in plain sight. Ruth had known. She'd kept it secret to punish Mark, or maybe to protect herself. And suddenly, every moment, every sleepless night, every tear, every prayer felt worth it. "She's ours," I whispered, through tears. "She's really ours." Mark buried his face in his hands, sobbing like a man finally freed from a lifetime of ghosts. That night, I tucked Leah into bed again. The storm outside had passed, and a pale moonlight spilled across her face. The faint birthmark under her eye glowed softly, the mark of truth, of survival. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "You were never lost, just waiting to be found." As I turned off the light, I finally felt the weight lift, not because the secrets were gone, but because I'd learned something deeper. Sometimes, family isn't about the blood that ties you together, it's about the love that chooses to stay when the truth finally comes out.